So we have sun, we have rain, we have storms, we have thunderstorms, and we have wind. All of that in one day, and it's been like that for several days now. So we are going to be taking the changes in the light the way they come. So hello everyone, welcome or welcome back to my very small place on the internet where I talk about knitting, my knitting life, my knitting adventures, knitting with my two broken wrists. My name is Isabelle, I am in France in Normandy, and as I just said, the weather is very changing and unstable now, so we're gonna take all of the changes and maybe I will have to close the window if the wind comes up. That's the way it is for now. We feel like fall, my friends. Here it's like autumn. It's not it's not summertime. But anyway, so today it's going to be a video about what I have been knitting on, my current projects, and what I have finished. A regular type of video you see about everywhere else on the internet. So, with all the uncertainties about the lights and the weather, if that sounds good to you, please stay tuned. Okay, so first, what am I wearing? I am wearing a finished object that you haven't seen, and I'm not sure I've talked about having it finished at some point. I know you've seen it quite some way into the project, but I'm not sure I talked about it already as a finished object. So this is the Colocasia top by Marie-Amélie Designs. It's a free pattern, but unfortunately it's not available online. It's from one of the books, and she has made all of the patterns free when she stopped designing, but some of her patterns do not have a digital life, so I guess you can't get them unless you get the book. The Colocasia top, I heavily modified it. I started on June 19th when I was first starting to knit again with my broken wrists. I was still wearing the splints, the custom splints. They are just right next to me. I can be in the house and now I can walk for a bit without the splints, which is a huge improvement. So I started on June 19th and I finished it on July 14th. So a bit under a month. And for a 3mm needles project, which is, it's not a full-size garment because there are no sleeves, but it's a large project. That's quite good, and I was not knitting on that only. So you may see, usually the Colocasia, I can't bend my arms. So usually the Colocasia has some lace on either side of the v-neck, in the front, in the back, and around the armholes. I did search for a long time for a project for Marilyn, the Isayer yarn and linen blend that within this color, everything is in my project, is linked in my project if you are interested into the colorway and stuff like that. This colorway looks like faded denim. And I did search a lot for a pattern and I settled down on Colocasia, but I did not use the lace that I thought was a bit outdated, and you can see the increases lines maybe on the sides here. There are short rows in the back, so you start with one side of the back because there is a little v-neck. I will show you, or maybe I can show you right now. There is a little v-neck in the back. This is what I liked. So you start with the back, you need two sides, you join them, and you make short rows for shaping the shoulders. And you see, I've linked already the Japanese short rows video that I'm using, and it makes short rows that are completely invisible to me. And linen, you can't, linen shows everything. So that means my short rows are really, really invisible. Then you pick up for the front, you make some other short rows to shape the shoulders. So you see also in the front, and my pickup line is here, so you don't see it very much. So I'm quite pleased with that. Then you shape the V-neck. I was loosely following the pattern just for the measurements, and I was engaged for the pattern, but as I was not using the lace and everything, I was not quite following the pattern. I went a bit too deep in the front for my liking. So I will continue to wear it with either a t-shirt underneath, which defeats a bit the purpose of a summery t-shirt in linen, in a linen blend, because it adds some warmth to it, and I want it to be cool. And I shaped the underarms so that I can wear the t-shirt without showing much on the sides. So that's one thing. The other thing is, you see, once you finish, it's finished. There is an I-cord at the border of the V-necks in the front, in the back. I-cords at the end of the sleeves. They roll a bit inside. I'm not sure I like that, but I'm going to just let it be. And I did not use the I-cord border at the bottom of the sweater. I'm going to be standing up for you to see how it is on my own body. I used regular 2x2, I guess, 2x2 or 2x1, 2x1 ribs at the bottom of the sweater. Once you're down and you've knit all of the body, it's finished. There is no coming back to modify anything. Everything is done at once. So that I like. I like the fit. It's kind of dropped shoulders, but there are no sleeves. So I'm okay with that. I'm always a bit uneasy with too much bulk under the arms with drop shoulders, but for that t-shirt it's okay. And the fabric, even though it's fine, it's not absolutely not see-through, so I can wear the t-shirt with just a bra. And if I want to do that, I mean, it's a bit too deep for me, I may do the same thing that Stephen West does in the Vertices Unites or Vertices Unite shawl that I knit last year. There is at some point two parts of the shawl that are forming that kind of a V, and then you knit in between, picking up stitches and making up stitches as you go. So I may look at how he's done it and do the same, and maybe knit up to here so that I can wear the sweater or the t-shirt without, or the top, without anything underneath. So I'm just going to stand up and show it how it's on my own body. And this is where I can say I'm a real YouTuber, because I have sweatpants underneath. I went straight into the shower at the end of the day. We are at the end of the day, and I just dressed myself up on the top and sweatpants on the bottom. So you see, it's not too long, it's not too short, it's long enough. My waist is about here, so it's below my waistline. I did not make short rows in the back. Maybe I should have. At some point I thought about that, but I did not. And you have the small V-neck in the back. You have the large and too large V-neck in the front. And you see, I may, at some point, if I have enough left, I do have a lot left, but I have other plans for what I have left. I may go back and add maybe an inch or 3 centimeters or 2.5 centimeters of ribbing at the bottom. But I feel comfortable that way, so I may just leave it that way. So I'm very, very happy with it. I love the color. I love the feel of it. I love the fact that linen is giving kind of a heathered colorway to the fabric, because linen doesn't take the dye the same way it takes the yarn takes it, or the merino takes it. I did use just a tad over 4 balls. So these are 208 meters per 50 grams, so that's 227 yards per 50 grams. So I just went into the 4th ball for half the cast off. That's the way it is. I've been using it into another project, and I went this morning at my small local yarn store where I did buy the Marilyn. So she's totally out of Marilyn at all. She doesn't have any left, but she's waiting on another order, because I was thinking maybe to use what I have left. So I have a bit less than, I would say maybe I have 1.5 ball left at least. And I would maybe use the white one. It's not quite white, but it's not very creamy. I'm not craving the butter yellow that is everywhere right now. I don't think it fits me. But this one has a tad of creaminess, but it's still quite white, or clear. So I may buy some of this colorway and then make a striped t-shirt with what is left of my Marilyn once I have done everything I want to be doing with the leftovers. So anyway, I'm very, very happy. I do recommend Marilyn if you are looking for some kind of linen blend, and I haven't said it, it's 80% wool and 20% cellulose or linen and flax. That's what they say. And I absolutely do recommend you knit it. So it's 3 millimeter. I knit it with 3 millimeter needles. She has a blouse, a petite knit blouse that she's knit with it on 3.5 millimeter needles, I think. I like the fabric on 3 millimeter needles. I've been wearing it a lot, and I have some necklaces that kind of rub against it. It's not been peeling at all. I really like this yarn. I do recommend it if you are looking for some linen blend and for some summer yarn. Whether you are still in the summertime for a bit, I don't feel like I'm in the summertime right now, but whatever, or if you are coming to be in the summertime. Okay, next, a finished object I'm sure I haven't talked about at all, because I casted it on 3 days ago on July 20th, and I finished it yesterday on July 22nd. I kind of knit only on that. One of you, I will try to find your username, but if I don't be mad, please don't be mad at me. I thank you so much. You recommended me Wrist Snugglers by Diane Malinowski. And because you see that I am wearing those very, very worn out type of bandages. I have another silicone bandage right now on my scars because they are a bit upset. So the physiotherapist is trying to help me with that. And I do hide my scars because sometimes some people were kind of uneasy with me talking about it or seeing the scars when I was at work, and I would assume some other people would be uneasy. I'm not at all uneasy about showing them, but anyway. And you said that you came across this pattern and you liked it a lot. So wrist snugglers. So Diane Malinowski made that yarn in a sports weight on 3.5 mm needles. I did not. I used my fingering and light fingering weights. I used Marilyn that we just talked about for the Colocasia, what I have left over. And I went through a new bowl of Filcolana Merci. We are going to be talking about Louise, my top that I'm knitting with that. But I will have plenty, so I could go into a new bowl just for that. So they are all damp. They are not dry yet. And I may show you maybe this one. You know, I kind of pinned them down so that when they dry out, the little motif will show. So you have a little motif, so I knit them that way around. I started with the Marilyn. You have a little slip stitch motif. So it's a free pattern. I can tell you what it is. So on one row, you knit, on the other row, you slip with the yarn in front, and for each color, you go on one stitch, the one stitch you slip, you knit, and the one stitch you knit, you slip. It makes a little slip stitch motif that is quite pleasant. My two colors are not very contrasty, so it's going to be very muted. Even though one next to the other as a color block, they look quite contrasty. And what she says is that this little slipped stitch motif makes the wrist snugglers or the wrist warmers a little bit smaller in diameter around your wrists than with the plain stockinette on either side. So I may just unpin the other one, and because I did pin it to see how it was going, but I think I like the way it was being a little bit shorter or less wide at the center of the wrist warmer or the wrist snuggler. I like this idea. I will be making some more. I have to find some yarn that is not wool because when I knit, if it's a woolly yarn, it itches my scars if they are not protected. So I may wear them to knit, but I would not make some pure wool wrist snugglers or wrist warmers on their own. Some kind of blend is perfect. I do have some leftover cotton from my mother I can use, and I can make some other ones. I like this idea very much. I did adapt the stitch count. I think I knit on 3mm needles, and you know it's you have to cast on a multiple of 4 stitches because on the 4 rows the motif is on 4 stitches. But other than that, you can do whatever you want with your own yarn and your own gauge, and I like the way it looks. I like very much the way it looks, and I like the way it feels before it's all damp, so I won't be wearing them, but I bet next time I record the video I will be wearing them. And I like the way they are feeling on my wrists. No pain, no itchiness. I really like that. So that's my second finished object for this video. Okay, so I just unpinned the other one to have them now dry out, laying out flat. They are flat enough on either end, I think, so they are not rolling up and they won't be rolling up. So I really like them, and I like this idea very much, and I would like to thank you very much because it was a perfect idea for me and a way to turn a very bad life adventure and a very bad accident and painful memories into a wardrobe and a fashion accessory. Okay, next you have seen that one at some previous stage. The Slater Tee, I did call it that way because I've been using a bit or parts of the pattern. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. Slater Tee is by Stine Holgan Johansen, and it's in the Jarbo web store on Ravelry, and all of these patterns usually on the Jarbo website are free. So this tee has an interesting construction. It has kind of saddle shoulders that are not real saddle shoulders, that you knit as you go, because you start with the back stitches, shoulder stitches, and a few front stitches. You do not make short rows because as you are knitting back and forth and you are increasing the stitches, it makes some kind of a short row because you need more back and forth on the back than on the front. Then you end up casting on stitches. I think you will have to look at the pattern. I don't recall quite well. I think you cast on the stitches. When I look at it and when I try it on, it's okay. When I look at it, it feels like the neck opening is a bit too wide, but it's okay. I promise you it's okay. I picked up the stitches and I did knit the collar. I made one per row on the collar. Then I knit the collar. I made a purl row at the middle to be able to distinguish the real middle of the collar, and I knit the other side and I seamed it, and I like the way it goes on me. So I'm finished, almost finished with the bottom. I have stopped because I went out of one of the yarn I'm using. So I just said, okay, let's call it a day, and I will finish that later on once I knit on the sleeves. And now I need to pick up for the sleeves and knit the sleeves, and I will make a long sleeve sweater because this is not a summer t-shirt for me, even though the pattern I'm using is with a summer yarn and for a summer t-shirt with short sleeves, but it has the same gauge. So I use the pattern. You see, you can use a pattern with a very different yarn and to do very different things if your gauge is close enough and that you can play around with it. My mistake, if you think it may be a bit too wide at the front, I don't like wide necklines. But anyway, it's because, once again, I did not read the pattern. I just took it as some suggestions, and I went a bit too deep before joining the two fronts. And once you join the two fronts, you join in the round and you continue. So at the beginning, you increase only on the front and the back, and then at some point, you start to increase for the sleeves and the front and the back at a different rhythm, and at some point I stopped increasing for the front and the back because I had enough stitches and I thought it was wide enough, and I continued increasing only on the sleeves. And I think the diameter of the sleeves is enough, so I will maybe cast on just the stitches for the underarm, but no more. The yarn I'm using is the one I got when I went to Le Fil de la Manche, so that's not long ago. So when did I cast on this project? Oh, I haven't written it in my Ravelry project. I will do it because I did write it down on my personal notes. So I'm using Polo and Company yarn. So this is Bourrette de Soie. So it's a silk, like kind of a raw silk, and you see, like linen, silk does what it wants with the dye, and some parts did take the dye, and you can see here there are parts that do not, so it makes kind of a heather look. Once again, I like that very much. 350 meters per 50 grams. It's the colorway is lila. And I have four balls. So you see, I just finished the second one before I stopped for the sweater, and I think I'm making some kind of an XL size sweater. I did not say for Colocasia, I think it's also some kind of an XL size. So I have plenty to finish the t-shirt and finish the sleeves. I was kind of worried last time I talked about it, but I think it's going to be okay. And I'm using it with the mohair, so the same company, Polo and Company, 70% kid mohair, 30% silk, and it's 450 meters per 50 grams, and this one is aubergine, which is eggplant. And you see there, the silk takes the dyes differently than the yarn, than the wool, than the mohair. Mixing them together gives a very light and very luxurious and very warm fabric that is not see-through, you see, because the samples they had on their booth in the yarn festival, the sample they had pure silk sample, but it was very see-through, and I did not quite like that. So they showed me a sweater that they had in the back because it was that very blend of silk and mohair, and it was in a beigey white silk base. My mother is calling me. Okay, she's home from her, what I call daycare, I should not say that. She goes 3 days a week in a center for people who have memory and cognitive disorders, and she loves it. She's always very tired when she comes back, but she loves it very much. And tomorrow is going to be her last day before the center closes for 3 or 4 weeks for the summertime. Anyway, I'm going to see her next week, and I'm going to pick her up and bring her back home. Anyway, what I was saying is that they had a sample with this blend of silk and mohair. The silk was beigey white and the mohair was kind of a brick burgundy one. And I did like the marling effect it was giving very much. So I'm doing the same. I'm using the same kind of idea, but with two colorways that are much closer to one another in the same range, and it's even in the same bath. So you see, there is the marling effect, there is the darker parts from the mohair, the lighter parts from the silk. I like, and even from a distance you can see it, I like the fabric very much. It's gonna be a very warm and very light sweater. And to knit on the sleeves, what I haven't said, with the wrist warmers that I just finished knitting, I used Magic Loop. Yeah, why did I forget that? I used Magic Loop. I'm a team DPN all the way since the very first moment I learned how to knit, because this is how my grandmother was knitting, and that's the way she taught me. So I'm always using DPNs, even on sleeves. I don't like Magic Loop. I have to say, I did use Magic Loop for the wrist warmers on the 3mm needles, because the movements for the DPNs are a bit too difficult for my wrists. So I'm using the Magic Loop method for the wrist warmers, and my idea was to see if I could knit on small circular conferences and maybe go back to knitting socks. I went to the little yarn store because I wanted to get some needles to do Magic Loop on socks. Magic Loop is much easier on my wrists, and I'm thinking if I want to go back knitting on socks, I need to get the correct tools for Magic Looping, because the smaller needles I have are 3 millimeters, I think. I have DPNs, I have the whole set of the whole range. So I did order some small diameter needles, maybe I took 2.5 and 2.75 millimeters. I do not recall. 2, I'm sure, and the cable, the interchangeable cable that goes with it. I did order Chiago needles. This is what she carries, and she has also knit picks or knit pros. But for the sleeve, knitting on the sleeves, because I was telling her that I was going to be knitting on the sleeves for this t-shirt, she says, why don't you try small circumference needles? So these are hers. She said, okay, just try them on. If you like them, you can give them back to me. These are Chiago's 3mm needles so that I can try them on, knitting on the sweater sleeves, and I see if I like them, and if I do, I will be maybe buying some more as I need, because she carries Chiago and she has orders on a regular basis. So I can order whatever I need anytime I need it, and when I'm knitting on a sweater, on the body of a sweater, there is enough time for her to order and receive. So I will start knitting on the sleeves with these small circumference needles. And she says what is important is the fact that they are bent, because it's not like the very small tips on the sets that Chiago have. These ones can be tucked into the fingers and do not hurt the hands, because I had already tried small circumference needles, and I did not like at all the short tips. Small circumference, I guess it's okay, but you have to have shorter needles, and I really did not like working with the shorter tips. So this is why I defaulted to my usual DPNs, and so that's the way. So I will try these ones, and I will report back on how I am knitting with my broken wrists on, on the sleeves. I did do magic loop on the 2 previous sweaters that I finished, but they were much bigger needles, so I'll see if I like that. I will report back, and I will finish the t-shirt. I will have enough, the sweater, I will have enough to finish both of the sleeves and the bottom of the sweater. I think I will do the same kind of ribbing, which is not ribbing but edging, for the sleeves and the bottom. It's the same kind of edging I did for the Gallant sweater. And so I've added a purl row here. I think it's in the pattern, but this is also what the Sovabalin sweater has at the beginning of the ribbing. It's just regular ribbing for Sovabalin, a little purl row, and I like that a lot. So this is what I did here, a little purl row before I go into the ribbing, and I will do the same at the tip of the sleeves and at the bottom of the sweater. So this one should be finished sooner than later. I will concentrate on that and my next project, because as I've been knitting on wrist warmers, I left everything and I just knit on them as a mad woman, as a monogamous knitter, even though I have several work in progress. But I did knit on the sweater when I was going to knitting sessions with my friends, either in a bar or at a local yarn store. So this kind of project is really, really nice for that kind of social knitting, because once you are knitting on the body, is just knitting round and round and round, so no mistakes possible. And of course I did knit on the wrist warmers last Saturday when we were at a local bar, because we were supposed to be knitting in a beautiful park, and I was very happy and I was very looking forward to that. It was raining so hard, we ended up on a Sunday in a bar that has also pastries and stuff like that. So We were there for the whole afternoon, and of course there are mistakes in my wrist warmers, but with a very low contrast and the busy pattern it doesn't show. So anyway, I like this type of project for social knitting, and I'm quite impatient to have it finished because I have other projects in mind, and I'm going to be talking about that to you just after. And one thing I forgot to show you last time. When I went to Le Fil de la Manche, I got a bag. This is my first project bag I am buying. As I'm saying that, I'm kind of thinking I've already talked about it to you, but I don't recall. Anyway, I absolutely love these little cats, even if they look a bit angry. I love them. The pink thing is not much of my style, but I really did like these little cats a lot. They are on the inside of the bag. The inside also has a contrasting color lining. The bag maker is Angel something. I will try to find her and link it down below. It's a drawstring bag. It does hold all of my sweater, and so it's a large bag, and you have a handle that you can carry it with you, and it's a sturdy type of fabric. The fabric is on the bottom of also it's the same fabric on the bottom with the motif, and I really do like that. So you see, it's quite a large bag. There are pockets all around. I like that too, and I saw it. That's another story, the same one as this one. I saw it, and I went by, and I went around, and at the end of the morning I went back, and she said, I had two. This is my last one. Somebody bought one, so I did buy it. I wanted to buy another one for yourself, for someone else, but you won't have the same as me because there was only one left. So yes, and you see, so this is my sweater and what I have left of my yarn, the two balls, the two silk balls, and the mohair skin. They fit in that bag, so I like it very, very much. Next is Louise by Natasha Hornby. So I'm not sure where I was last time. I haven't been knitting much on it, and I want to focus on Louise now. I finished one of the fronts here. I really do love her designs. One of the fronts, and I need to pick up and knit the second part of the front. It's not complicated, but it's not social knitting type of project. So it's broken ribs. I think this is the way it's called. So you see the front and you see the back of the broken rib pattern. So here you have the front, the back. So I need to focus on that and finish it. It may look a little small, but when I wear it in front of me, it's okay. Just the straps are going to be a bit too narrow, I think. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But now it's on the cords. It's just going to be going under my arms. So I will see if I need to add a bit of length before joining in the round or not. I can do that quite easily, so that's not a problem. I'm using Filcolana Merci. Filcolana Merci is wool and cotton, 50% cotton, Pima cotton, and 50% wool, and which is a bit funny. You may have seen that in my community tab this morning. I made a post. I usually post free patterns that are free for a limited time on Ravelry, or patterns that are not on Ravelry. The hobby website has published 2 patterns by Sari Nordland that are for free, and they are also called Thelma and Louise, the same name that Natasha Hornby has published her twin set for this little top and a cardigan. The cardigan is absolutely beautiful, and I may get the pattern and knit it at some point, because I love really the style of this cardigan and the work on the stitch motif and the way the stitch motif shapes the garment. And this is going to be the same with Louise. This is what I liked. In the front you have the ribbing or the broken ribs that will go with kind of a slant in the front, and you have also the ability to make some adjustments for bust size. You have bust darts, optional bust darts. So all of these quite unique techniques is what decided me on buying the pattern and casting it on. I need to focus on it right now, right? Tell me that I need to focus on it and finish it before the fall is over. Okay, next, it's not a project yet. You know that I had asked for your advice about unraveling reduplicate. Reduplicate has been completely unraveled. I'm not sure this is the right ball. It's a bit big and the yarn is quite smooth. But anyway, I did unravel reduplicate and I felt so much better after I did. I did talk about it to you. I did talk about it with Rosemary, and I reclaimed the yarn. This yarn is absolutely fabulous. It's possum yarn. It's a fingering weight, and it's Sally Ridgway Merino Possum 4-ply. The colorway is a number, and it's the purple violet family. Rosemary has gifted me with 1200 meters of this possum yarn, so there is enough to make a sweater, maybe not a long sleeved sweater, but at least a sweater. So reduplicate was bearing too many difficult memories. I had stopped knitting on it when I was in the hospital, or I did start and stop knitting on it when I was in the hospital last year because it was too complicated for my brain to come around the way the sweater was constructed. Once I did go around the construction, I was a bit, why making short rows in a lacy pattern so that you can have setting sleeves looking like sweater construction when it would be much easier to knit in pieces and sew the sleeves on the garment. Anyway, so there was that, and I had taken back knitting on reduplicate just before I broke both of my wrists. This is the sweater I was knitting on when I broke my wrists. So it was bearing too many difficult memories, and this yarn is absolutely fabulous. You can't feel it. I would like there is a way for you to feel how smooth and how plump and how perfect it is. But anyway, you can't for now. In this purple colorway that is quite close to my t-shirt that I'm making right now. So I did look for another pattern that would have a gauge that is quite close to the swatch I made a year ago or so, and I came up with an idea, with a match from Paula Pereira's Textured Knits book. This book was a present from one of my sons, my eldest sons. I think, I do not recall if it was for a birthday or maybe for Christmas. And the pattern I came across that I think is a match is Oticia. I'm going to show it to you in the book, but I'm going to place a picture because you're going to see it much better. And Oticia is a yoked sweater with a color work, but this color work is very particular. There is a special way of making these lines. It's just not plain color work, and I'm not going to be giving anything about it because it's a pet faux pattern and I need to plug my computer to the power line. So what Paula Pereira says, so she is from Brazil. Helio Oticia is one of my favorite Brazilian artists. What's not to like about that, or even love about that? He was a painter, a performer, and above all, an artist who fought against the oppressive military regime in Brazil. Rings a bell? What's happening right now? He created a series called Mateskema. I'm sorry, I'm butchering that. That has really inspired me, especially the small spaces between geometric shapes where light can get through. This is what Oticia is going to be looking like. The Oticia sweater is an invitation to mix fibers in a garment. You can choose to use any further fiber or a color as the contrasting yarn. Here is another picture. I will place pictures so that you can see it better. So there is 4 rows of little vertical lines of contrasting colors, but there is a little bit more about it than just that. And before I show you my ideas, I'm going to be plugging my computer in. Okay, we're safe, we're plugged in. So my idea is to knit Oticia with the possum yarn and to knit the little color work either with, and maybe both, some mohair I have left from the Pyrenees. I'm not sure where it's coming from because I know I did buy some white to make 5 years ago to make coals for my co-workers, and one had requested white. And I have none left in my stash on Ravelry, so not sure where this is from. I'm sure the little leftover is that bit from that time, but I have another ball that I do not remember when it was, when did I get it. And this one is the mohair from the Pyrenees that the lady makes on her own. It's not, she doesn't go through Mohair des Fermes de France, which is a cooperative where several producers unite to lower the cost of washing and milling and everything. And you see, I'm sure they're going to go together as far as yarn thickness because of the fluffiness of the mohair. Even if they are not quite the same size, I'm sure they are going to go together. And doing the little ray of light in the white on the purple background, I know it's going to be working. Thing is, I don't have enough. So if I do the white, I either do less, which I don't quite think I'm going to be doing, or I do something else. So, or maybe do 2 colors. The next one is what I have left. So I have plenty. I have another 3 or 4 braids of this mohair that is was an attempt. It's Reseda. It's in the very yellow colorway. I think it goes with the purple. I have plenty. So the idea is maybe, and this is why I would like your opinion, make the whole Oticia with purple and yellow, or start with the white, go with all the way I can go with the white, and then move to the yellow for 1 row maybe. I'll see how much I need. So that's another possibility. I'm not sure I would like the white being at the top and the yellow at the bottom. I think it would be better to start with the yellow and go to the with the white at the underneath, but that means I can't finish all of the white, and if I decide, if I see that in the end I do have enough, I know I don't have the meterage that is recommended into the pattern, but we'll see. It's nothing to do with the yarn that she's using, so whatever. So I would prefer to do the yellow at the top than the white, but that means I may end up having enough white. So that's my first question. What would you do? Would you go all the way with the yellow? And so this is something else that I can use. I know I used that in a color work, in a mohair sweater, color work mohair sweater that I did a couple years ago. So I can still use that some other time. So would you do the white and finish with yellow at the bottom if needs be? Would you do yellow only? And when I was looking in my stash, so I have some other mohair, but they are in the blue, they are in the gray range, so they are darker, and I don't think they will go with the purple of the possum yarn. I found another yarn. I'm not sure I'm going to use it, but I just want to show it to you. I've had that in my stash for several years now, 2021. Okay, so this is a Fonty yarn. It's called sari. So it's made from recycled silk from saris. In India, they have a project, and I will show the picture of the skein. In that ball, there are two different skein of yarn. This is a third one, so there are cuts. There were 3 parts in the skein. I did not know about that. So some of it is in the purple and pink color range. Some of it is more blue and yellow. I like it. And this is not a so it's a self-changing colored thread because it's sari silk as a matter of fact, but they just do stripe bits of silk as they come, so you will have a self color changing, but with no rhyme or reason. They just grab it and they do it that way. I think it could be very funny, but I think in some parts the yarn is very thin and is much thinner than the possum yarn you see here. So I'm a bit afraid it would not be. Some parts are quite similar. Some parts are much thinner. So I don't know what to do. I'm so tempted to be using that. Maybe the ball where there are some more blues and yellows and pinks than the one that is more obviously purple and a bit moodier, a bit darker, so that the little rays of light show, like in a cathedral, for example, through the windows. So the stained glass windows. So, and you see there are some parts that are very bright, and I can do some color management. If I see that it's too dark, I can cut and use whatever. So you see here, that part is very thick, and it goes into parts that are very thin. So this is one of my concerns, but I think it would be a very funny way to knit Oticia. So I need your advice. I need your input. What do you think? Do I use the thick and thin sari silk yarn with the possum yarn to have some kind of whatever colors are going to be showing, with the risk it's not homogeneous enough, because from one part to the other it's not going to be doing like a spin cycle type of yarn, it's just changing without rhyme or reason? Or do I use mohair I think it would be much better because I think the weight the weight of the mohair is closer to the possum weight. Do I use mohair? And if I do I start with the white and go down to whatever and then move to the yellow, even though I would think the yellow would be better on top of the color range, like the sun goes to the clouds or something like that, or you could say, the clouds and underneath the clouds there is some sun. Or do I do the yellow only? Which is going to be the most homogeneous way to do it. The white being the closest way to the sweater, even though it's not on a purple background. So yeah, that's the question for you today, my friends. What would you do with a possum yarn? I'm kind of settled on Oticia. Oticia with white mohair and finishing up the color work if I need with the yellow, because otherwise I have some purple, I have some gray, and I have some blues. I don't think it would go underneath. So that with the yellow mohair only, or do I risk using that crazy sari color work and see how it does? And if I don't like it, I can always rip it out. But I was thinking to do some kind of striped sweater with that, so with a neutral background. So maybe I could do it with that. That would be nice. Anyway, I don't know. That's my question for you. What would you do? What do you think? As always, I'm gonna be the one casting on, so yes, there's that too. Would you do something else? Would you do another pattern? Would you do another contrasty color? I think I have yarn that matches this weight, or I can make it match on a clear yarn. I can use Holzgarn. I have a lot, and I have some clear one. I have Holzgarn tights that is kind of a beigey white or a grayish white. I have other yarn that I can use that will match the gauge, and I have enough. But I would like to use the mohair and not just a plain yarn, even though she says you can use a plain yarn. So what would you do? I'm just turning to you once again to have your input and your advice and your ideas. You've always been helping me so very much in the past, making up decisions. So yeah, what you to do. And thanks a lot in advance for all of your answers. Okay, so that's gonna be it for today. You've seen my work in progress and what I have finished and what I will be casting on at some point, not too far in the future, and especially if we remain in the fall, right as we are right now. We are on July 23rd. The temperatures are in the 20 Celsius, I would say in the 70s for Fahrenheit, with a lot of rain. It's been very cold, so I might as well knit on winter sweaters. Anyway, as always, I thank you so very much for being here with me, for being part of this community, for knitting with me, for getting in touch with me, sharing some of your personal life and of your personal difficulties, saying that my videos bring you joy and happiness, and I do hope that your knitting is bringing you joy and happiness, even if for now you know who you are. You are not able to be knitting that much or not at all. It will come back. It will come back. One stitch at a time, one row at a time on a smaller project, and you'll get back into the rhythm, and it's going to be back into your life, bringing some joy in this crazy world that goes crazier and crazier and crazier, and that can be very scary. So I thank you a lot for being part of my life, for being part of my daily joy when we have conversations down below the videos, for being part of my knitting adventures, for giving me suggestions, for getting to me and we can have some private conversations. I thank you so much. You have no idea how grateful I am to have you into my life. I thank you a lot for being here with me, for being there all together, and I hope I will see you next time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Top, and I should have prepared. Okay, next, a finished object I haven't talked about at all. Okay, next, it's not